All right, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to talk about two teams that have been struggling recently: the Nuggets and the Bucks. The Bucks a little more so than the Nuggets, um, but let's jump right into it. The Nuggets are doing pretty bad. They are 4-3 on the season. They lost to OKC, Clippers, and Minnesota. They won against Toronto, Brooklyn, Jazz, and Toronto. Um, you could say the games they have lost are the ones they should have lost, and the games they won they should have won. Um, I don't necessarily see it like that. I think a lot of people would agree with me, and I would agree with them. Two of these games went to overtime, and a lot of these games have been close. The only one that hasn't been close in a win is the Utah Jazz one, 129 to 103. Um, they're they are just a badly constructed team, and that's going to be a theme going through both these teams. But I think we should touch on the um, the star player on each team. I think that's very important. Jokic threw almost a dozen games. He's averaging 29, three almost four turnovers a game, one block, 1.5 steals, um, 10 assists, 12 rebounds, um, shooting 53% from three. That'll probably dip obviously because it's only 7 game sample size. Um, and he's in his 10th year in the league. He's a 3-time MVP. Um, he's been runner up also, and a bunch of accolades. I just think it's hard to describe the struggle that they're going through, and it would be very obvious to say, well, you can blame Russ, you can blame Jamal Murray, you can blame whoever you want to blame. Um, but this is a badly constructed team. When you look at who they have and who they've been in the past, it is not the same team. They're relying on young guys to younger guys. I shouldn't even say young guys, younger guys to fill in these roles that aren't necessarily tailored for them. And that's what the league is all about, making your carving your way into the league. But when a team has championship aspirations like this, you kind of you kind of look for guys to fill in those gaps, and they know how to fill in those gaps and do it the right way. Guys like Drew Holiday, guys like KCP, guys like Jeff Green. You know, it's it's not an easy fix to go from those guys. Who Jeff Green's kind of washed now, but when he was with the Nuggets, he was a bit better. But to lose a guy like KCP for the Nuggets, to lose Drew Holiday for the Bucks, those are guys that you think, oh, we can replace them, and then you try to, and you get Russell Westbrook instead of KCP, and Russ has had a couple good games as of late, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same. Um, he's not what this team needs, and it's the Russell Westbrook experience where your team gets Russ and they think of OKC Russ, and that he hasn't been that guy for a long time. And the only time Russ has been good is when he's been on bad teams and his individual numbers skyrocket, but the team loses a lot, you know. And you can't go from. It sounds crazy to say because Russ is a Hall of Famer, you know. You can't go from KCP to Russ thinking, not asking them to do similar things, but asking Russ to be just a defender, because that's all he really is at this point in his career. His three ball has gone off, his mid range has gone off. He can't really do much else but defend, you know, through games. He's gonna have these blips in the schedule where he has a good game. where you think, oh, there it is. We see it. We see it. We see it. And it just doesn't happen like that. It just doesn't happen like that for him over and over and over again. He can't summons it up, and he's not comfortable. And it teams gaslight themselves into thinking, oh, Russ is going to be good for us. It was the Lakers. Oh no, it was just Houston. Oh no, it was just this. It was just the Clippers. It was this. It was that. This is who Russ has been, and there were some ideas that he's so bad he should retire. They should waive him and he should retire. And I mentioned this in my other video. I don't think he should do that. I think that's just a terrible way to go out for a guy of Russ's caliber. But there is a point where do the Nuggets look to increase his value enough to trade him at the trade deadline and try to get something else? Maybe. Maybe they just stick to their guns and say, well, this is the team. Maybe we can trade some of our younger guys to get some more veteran guys so Russ's minutes are even smaller so you can only play him in spurts. Um, Perhaps. Um, I've seen rumors of them trading Michael Porter, which I don't think is a good idea right now. I think maybe in the off season, when teams are a bit more willing to let go of higher quality assets instead of doing it on the fly. I would have to pull up the trade machine to look for Michael Porter trades. But I just don't think it's it's a good idea to make anything too hasty, make a hasty decision right now for the Nuggets because they are better than the Bucks. If they were in the Bucks position, I would say sell it all off, but they're not. Um, just to go over Jokic's stats, this is his highest scoring season so far. I think even if the Nuggets do stand to improve, he's going to average somewhere around 28, 27. Because in his two MVP seasons, it's been 26 and 27. He can get to 28. Now, when they've, in my opinion, when the Nuggets are at their best is when Jokic isn't scoring a ton. He's scoring an appropriate amount, not a ton. He needs his other guys because he's a master facilitator. He needs his other guys to hit shots. And to say that Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. aren't hitting shots would be an understatement. They're not hitting the ones they used to hit. We can put it that way. They, I don't want to say they look lost, but the trust isn't there anymore. The trust just simply isn't there anymore. For Jokic, for them, I think he's always going to rely on them on a kick out, but he Jokic needs something more dependable. He needs. It sounds so crazy. He needs like a JJ Redick. He needs like a Kyle Korver. He needs just somebody who is consistent enough to at the end of a game when he's getting doubled in the post, he can turn, see him, throw it to him, and they'll fire it. Even KCP wasn't that for them, but at this point, with so much of the offense relying on Jokic and none of the other pieces really working, because Jamal, he can catch and shoot. Michael Porter Jr. can catch and shoot, but what they do when their three isn't falling, they try to get into the mid range. They try to do all these things, and they do too much with the ball. You just need a catch and shoot guy, like a strictly catch and shoot guy, and those guys don't come cheap anymore. Those guys do not come cheap. They come very, very highly. Um, they're highly coveted. Um, I'm just looking through his numbers here. Um, Jokic played 79 games last year, 69 in 2023, 74 in 2022, 21 he played 72, and 2020 played 73. He's gonna be there. he's gonna play. He's gonna play well, but he needs help. He needs help. And unlike what people are saying about Jokic, is what they're unlike what they're saying about Giannis is completely different for Jokic. I don't think any of this is Jokic's fault. Um, like people on the internet saying about Giannis. I think I think Jamal Murray. It sounds so wild to say. He's just past his prime, and like you want to. And Jamal, when they won the championship, they. It was very big for him and Mike Malone to say, "Oh, he trusted in me. He didn't push me to come back too early." And maybe that one that one run was it for Jamal Murray, and he just don't have it no more. He just doesn't have it anymore. Um, Michael Porter Jr. is who he is. No matter if he puts the headband on, no matter if he gets the tattoos, he's a scorer. He doesn't do much else. He really doesn't. And when you have these two guys next to Jokic, and Aaron Gordon is sort of, I guess, three dimensional in a sense where he will defend, he will shoot, he will get rebounds for you, but you need more guys with more depth. And I think that's the thought process with Russ for them was, oh, this is a guy who does a lot of things. He doesn't do anything great, he does a lot of things well. But when you just do things well and you need a championship level team around a 3-time MVP, well's not good enough. Okay is not good enough, you know? So it's just hard to blame Jokic. The front office put their faith in a lot of dare I say one hit wonders. And of course you're always going to bring the championship core back, but when you watch Jamal Murray, you watch him in the Olympics this past year. When you watch these guys, you think, "Oh, that's different. It's not the NBA. It's FIBA. It's whatever." Do you really think much is gonna change? I'm not saying they should have traded Jamal Murray, but do you think a lot's gonna change when he comes back to the NBA? No. One of the biggest things for these a lot of these guys is playing for your country. If you play like buns for your country, what do you think he's gonna do when he comes back to the NBA? He's gonna play like buns. So that's my spiel on the Nuggets. Let's look at their upcoming games. I think they have a bit of an easier schedule coming up. Um, they had no, they don't. They got a couple bones here. Um, I'll give you the whole month here till December. They play OKC. They play Miami. They play Dallas. These are all at home. Then they go on the road to New Orleans, to Memphis. Memphis 2 times. Then they're back home to play Dallas again. Then they play the Lakers. Then they play New York at home. Then they play the Jazz away. And then it's December and they go on a little, they go to LA to play the Clippers, the first of the month in December. Um, just looking at their schedule, the I don't, they're not going to be OKC. They'll probably beat Miami because Miami's been on a skid. I don't know who's guarding Kyrie and Luca, so they're gonna lose to Dallas. But then again, you could say who's guarding Jokic, but I rather have the firepower of the guards than Jokic trying to put up 40. Memphis, they might split Memphis. Dallas again, they probably won't beat Dallas. The Lakers, they might be able to beat the Lakers because they always have the Lakers number. Who knows if JJ is gonna change that? New York, they might be able to beat New York. Utah, I expect them to beat Utah, and the Clippers. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost to the Clippers either. So it's not an easy road for them, man. Um, it's only 7 games out of the 82, so we might come back at the end of December and say, oh, they're above 500. They're a couple games above 500. It's good. So yeah. Um, let's move on to the Bucks. I'll pull the Bucks schedule up here real quick. The Bucks are very, very bad right now. I'm praying for Buck fans at the moment. They are they are 1-6 on the season. They won their home opener, and that was it. That was it for them. Which is crazy to say when you have Dame and Giannis. Um, they won against Philly home opener, and then they've lost to Chicago, Brooklyn, Boston, Memphis, Cleveland twice. One at their house, one away. They have Utah coming up. Um, if they lose to Utah, we have a major problem. Um, I'm going to speak very candidly about a guy named Giannis, a coach named Doc Rivers. Um, I am not a Giannis hater. When you go on the record saying that, um, just for the record, I just want this to be made on the made in the video. Giannis did not play on Monday, November 4th. He had an abductor injuries day to day. Still, Dame Dame should be able to hold down the fort. I know it's the Cavs, but I just want to say that he did not play that game. I just want to put that out there right now. Um, as for Giannis, his stats, this is his second highest scoring season. Um, 31 points. No, not even a block, not even averaging a block, not even averaging a steal. His assists are the best they've been. His rebounding, second best of his career. Um, closer to third, but we'll say second. His 3 point is up, obviously 7 game sample size. Um, oh wait, pardon me. I'm looking at 2 point percentage. Pardon me. He hasn't taken a three. Barely taken a three. Um, they've only played 7 games or 6 games, pardon me, and this is year 12 for him. Um, Two-time MVP, trying to do what he can. Um, I think this is gonna sound very obvious. This is a classic Doc Rivers master class of a failing team. I said it in one of my other videos. I'll say it again here. Doc Rivers is living off a championship almost a decade ago, 2 decades ago. Um, he is he has been a I want to use some words, but I won't because I want to get monetized. Um, he's been a bad coach for a long time, and you keep throwing him bones. Um, he had Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Jordan, and a bunch of other names that came through that door. Granted, some of those big names might have been washed, but they came through the door, and he couldn't get it done. Some of that was injuries. I'll give him a sort of a pass there. Um, he coached Philly, had James Harden and Joel Embiid. Didn't work out. You could say James didn't want to be there from Jump Street. I'll give you that one. But it didn't work out. And then he takes a break from coaching. And I actually liked Doc Rivers, the podcaster. I liked him as a podcaster. I think on the Bill Simmons podcast, he was very good. He had some very insightful things. But coming back to coach the Bucks was a layup for any other coach. For Doc Rivers, it was one of those things where you said, "Oh, we're gonna get Doc Rivers. He's gonna be great for us." You know, we had this bad coach in Adrian Griffin, right? It's looking like the reverse now. Um, Doc Rivers is not. I don't want to say he doesn't know how to coach because I probably some might say, "Oh, you could probably coach this team." Just a guy on Twitter could say that. I could coach this team. That's probably true. You probably could coach this team. You probably wouldn't be 6-1 or 1-6, or what's the actual one? 1-6. You probably wouldn't be 1-6, which is probably very true. I haven't watched enough Bucks games to give Doc Rivers the the stuff I should give him, but I know Doc Rivers enough. I've been an NBA fan for long enough to know that Doc Rivers is the main issue here. Will they fire him? They probably won't fire him because that would look really bad to go from Adrian Griffin to go to Doc Rivers to another coach. Um, I don't even know who's out there right now who would be a proper substitute for Doc Rivers, but he is just he is the crux of the issue. But the other issue is the front office. Um, this team really doesn't emphasize defense like they did when they won the championship. Now, granted, Damian Lillard isn't a defensive guard like Drew Holiday. I will I will say that, but what you what you should do if you were a semi decent basketball mind, you would say, well, what we lack on defense, we should try to make up for on offense. And what's the number one thing that the Bucks should do? You should run the freaking pick and roll with Giannis and Dame every time, like you're playing 2K. Just run it every time down, at least like every 2 to 3 possessions. Run it. What is it? What are the teams gonna do? I like Brook Lopez. I'm sick of seeing Brook Lopez and Dame pick and rolls. I don't want to see it anymore. The few times I have watched the Bucks, that that seems to be all they run now, and it really blows me. The front office made a mistake not trading Brook Lopez at his peak when he reinvented himself after the championship or whatever. They should have gotten rid of Brook when they got rid of Adrian Griffin, or around that time period, because that's when he was at his most valuable. You could have gotten something really good for him. You could have gotten a young defensive wing, a young defensive big, but you didn't. Um, you trade for Dame, and you don't. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Never mind. I'll get to that in a second. Um, it's not a bad idea. What is a bad idea is not your two stars not even working out in the off season. And granted, Giannis played in the Olympics. He was very busy. He probably didn't want to work out too much with Dame. But you should have done a walkthrough at a gym in LA, a gym in fucking New York, you know? But you don't. And you kind of just walk into the season like, oh, well, we're the two best players. We're the two best 1-2 in the Eastern Conference. Big and guard duo in the conference, right? Because Maxi and Embiid really don't. Well, Embiid's not playing, but they don't really stack up. Maxi doesn't really stack up to Dame at the moment. Um, Boston's all wings, all NBA wings. There's no big, and there's no real true big that kind of swap Horford and Porzingis. Um, so you would think they're the best big guard duo in the conference, but they don't run it enough. They don't use them together enough, and that's fault of Doc Rivers. And the rest of the team is just kind of flat. They're just kind of flat. I mean, you could look at the scoring total for some of these games. Um, when they do score high, it's a Giannis 38, it's a Dame 33, it's a Giannis 37, it's a Lillard 36, Lillard 41. These are the guys putting up the numbers, so you have to account for that when I say these high scoring games. 133 to 122, Chicago. 115 to 102, Brooklyn. Boston 119 to 108. Memphis 122 to 99. And both of these Cleveland games, 100-point scoring game into the early teens. Um, you need you, and Chris Middleton is not going to fix this issue because when you add Chris Middleton to this, he's going to take the ball out of Dame's hands, who he's putting up big numbers. And you're in these games. You're in some of these games. In these Cleveland games, you were in these games because of Dame. And obviously Giannis didn't play the one, but you're in these games because of Dame. You take the ball out of Dame's hands and give some of the possessions to Chris, who Chris is way past his prime. I don't want to bag on a guy who's injured, but he's been injured for the past couple years. You should have traded him too. I get him and Giannis were buddy buddy before Dame got there. They were the 1-2 punch. You essentially almost drafted Chris Middleton, who came from Detroit. But at some point, you need to see the forest above the trees, and you're wasting Giannis's prime. And the hot topic is Giannis going to ask out this offseason if this season continues to go off the rails, or demand a trade this year? I don't think Giannis is that impulsive, but I think Giannis has to sit in the disaster that he made, because Giannis wanted Dame. Dame wanted to go to Miami, and you probably should have let him. And you probably should have said, let's wait for another star. Dame isn't really a part of what we do. We should try to keep um, Drew, even though at the time Drew was saying, I'm going to retire soon. You kind of made that move in retrospect in a bad way, because you probably could have won again and Drew would have played. As we seen with Boston, he won again and he said, "Oh, I'll sign another 4-year deal, a 4-year deal." That doesn't sound like retirement to me. That sounds like I'm here for another 4 years as long as we keep winning. The Bucks could have done that, but they've made bad decision after bad decision, and the people to blame is the front office, Doc, and Giannis. And you're always gonna fire the coach before you try to trade the star player, the All NBA player, the MVP. But I think at a certain point, it's at the middle of the season, at the All Star break, maybe it's at the end of the year, where Giannis is gonna sit back and say, "I won the championship here. I gave them all I had. The front office has made a mess. There's no coach that could possibly coach me to my fullest ability besides Mike Budenholzer." You could say all those things. And my thought earlier when I was saying, "Oh, ooh, that's a good idea," was maybe you try to get Terry Stotts, Damian Lillard's favorite coach, who coached him when he was in the Western Conference and on the Blazers. Maybe you try that. But I don't know where Terry Stotts is right now. I think he's not on a coaching staff. He might be, but maybe you say, "Hey, we got," because him and Adrian Griffin had an issue. I don't know if you guys remember that. He had an issue with Adrian Griffin. Adrian Griffin's gone. Doc Rivers is gone. Come here and please try to save us. Please give Dame an MVP season. He's a couple years older, but please try to incorporate Giannis. Maybe you do that next year. I don't know, but it's either that or Giannis leaves, or you try to package Chris and Brooke and try to get something else. Try to make a big three, but that doesn't work anymore. Giannis is going to be another year older if you do that. Dame is going to be another year older, and granted, Dame's putting up 41 points certain nights. He's putting up 30, 36, 33. So maybe you say Dame has another year in him, but you never know. You never know when the wheels are going to come off, because that's what happened with James Harden. You said James Harden went to Brooklyn. You're like, oh, he's gonna be the MVP again. We're gonna get MVP James Harden. he did it. He did it to Brooklyn. He did it to Philly. That's just not who James is anymore. And you have to be very careful with these guards like James, like Dame, like Chris Paul, like I can't even think of another name. But some of these guys, they don't age well, and they age into different roles. They age into different roles. And you sit back and you say, well, we tried. And you're gonna sit back with Giannis and say, well, we tried. And he's gonna be in New York. He's gonna be in Miami. He's gonna be in LA. Um, he's gonna be in Oklahoma. He's gonna be in San Antonio or something, and or in New Orleans. I don't know. These are the things that are floating around. I don't know, but I, if Giannis hits the ejectocito button, I wouldn't be mad because I get you had problems with Adrian Griffin. I get you had problems with uh, the people around you at the time. You said, well, Dame is obviously better than Drew. Drew's gonna retire soon. Let's get Dame. But this is why you don't let a player control your franchise unless it's somebody of a Steph Curry caliber, a LeBron James caliber, a not even a Kevin Durant caliber, because we've seen Kevin Durant just make a mess where he's gone as well. You have to be very Giannis is a very humble guy, and he acts like he isn't involved in the franchise, but he is. And this is the kind of mess he's made. And if there was a different coach, maybe we'd be having a completely different conversation. Maybe they'd be 6-1 instead of 1-6. But I don't have an answer for this one. I think it's wait on Giannis and see if he wants to leave. And if he wants to stay the course, we'll stay the course and we'll try to recorrect it. We'll try to get somebody else with you and Dame. But maybe the solution is you need better bench depth, and that's just what has to happen. And we'll see what you get for Brooke, what you get for Chris, because Chris and Brooke they need to go. They need to go. I know they're fan favorites, but at this point in their careers, they need to go. And if you're gonna keep the star and trade the other pieces, this should probably be the season to do it and say, hey, and just point at the bad season and say, hey, we need to reshuffle the deck. And I think the fans would understand. Um, that's it for this video. I didn't plan for this video to be this long, but that's what's going on with the Nuggets and the Bucks. So we'll see what happens. We can make a follow up at the end of December, at the end of All Star break, and see what's really happening, what other turmoil is going on. But uh, that would be it for now. Thank you for watching. Consider liking, consider subscribing. Cheers.